Thanks for having me here today. And I think that I can very well build on many things that have been said here today. I want to report on the student or the experiences that we did with introducing student TAs into our rather new project-based physics lab. So I wanted to do also the session today together with Andreas Eggenberger, who's like really the heart of this project. He's the leader of the all physics labs that are taken by students in physics, but also other departments. So maybe also your students are coming to us at some point to get some practical physics knowledge and some experimenting skills. And yeah, quite a while ago, we introduced this project-based P+, and last year we had an Innovatum grant for introducing a novel layer of supervision. And this is what I want to report about. And I also want to tell you that we wrote about this in the ETH Learning and Teaching Journal. And this is, yeah, soon, I think the volume 5 will come out and you can also read about this there. And yeah, so I want to introduce a little bit what our project-based lab is. So this is not the project-based lab. This is the typical physics lab as you may have gotten to know it yourself. And also most students also in physics still do this kind of lab. It's an excellently prepared set of experiments that are sometimes historically important for the development of physics. Most of the time, they're also transporting important skills about the lab, but they are just complementing the physics lectures that we have at the beginning on experimental physics. The thing is that here we have fixed setups with defined tasks. It is organized, or at least was organized in a way, and still is in most parts, that the teaching assistants are assigned to a single experiment. And so the students have every week another TA. And they do this in groups of 2 students. And generally, there's very little room for own ideas. And this is in contrast how a P+ experiment looks before the students start. So it's really the rooms that we have here in the practicum for P+, they are at first empty. And it's really the students that suggest the experiments and the topics they want to investigate. Part of their job is to really formulate a scientific question, learn the theory, then make predictions. The setups are at least co-developed by the student groups. They learn also not only about how to carry out the experiment, but one thing that is not able to transport really well in a conventional physics lab is debugging. They have to set priorities because of obvious time constraints. We have organized it in a way that the students are together in groups of 6 people. They stay together over the whole semester, and they have one supervisor that stays with the group also over the whole semester. And then there's a number of technicians, and also Andreas as the leader of the practicum, who's yeah, a lecturer in that sense, and they provide a lot of support and know-how. And so I want to only shortly mention that we tried to find out whether the things that cannot be taught well in a traditional lab course are taught better, or are captured by the P+, and at the same time we don't lose skills that they learn in a conventional lab course. And so we leaned on other people's work in what are skills that or learning goals that are transported in such lab courses. And then we asked the students before and after taking the course about their perceived competence. And so in all the years that we now, so we are currently running P+ for the 3rd time. And in all the years, we always had more application than spots. In the first and second year, I know it was exactly a factor of 2. I don't know how much it was this year. And before we told the people, so we had a lottery selection on who would get a spot and who not. And all of them filled or were asked to fill a questionnaire before. And then we also asked all of them to fill a questionnaire afterwards. And some of them then really took part in P+, and some of them took the normal course, so the standard course P2. So we have to take into account that those were like really the people who wanted to do P+. So there are really a number of people in physics and also other directions, but we are only offering this P+ within physics, who really don't want to have this project-based approach. So they would be overwhelmed, for example, by having this large group to manage and the social pressure, for example, or also other reasons. And so we offer this as an optional thing for them. And so maybe this is a little bit biased by the fact that those people who are now filling the survey for P2, but exactly those who wanted to do P+, but still we have we reach in all the areas at least the same perceived increase in competency. And yeah, so we think that really the P+ was a success. And here's how we do this. So I saw on previous slides that already other people are also using the same, I don't know, emojis or whatever that is for our groups. So here's the group of 6 people, and this is how it goes. So we have the whole semester is sectioned in 6 experiments, and they have the experiment being carried out over 2 weeks. They plan the experiment in the first week and prepare the theory, prepare the materials for the setup, and what needs to be done also by the technicians. And then they have on the Thursday in the second week, they have first, we call it Vorsprache. So it's like a short presentation of every group, what they will do in this afternoon. And they have several slots where they can on their own prepare the experiment. And then, of course, they have to write a report and hand it in. And this is repeated again and again. And what usually happens is that in the beginning, the students, and this has turned out to become even worse over the repetitions, they come with very elaborated experimental ideas and very ambitious goals, and they want to do something in their experiment, and then they figure out what to do, how to do it, they create a plan, they get feedback, and at some point they get a good to go. And the hope is that in the end, they will carry out a successful experiment. And our supervision approach there is, of course, because that's like really the basis, one of coaching more than tutoring. And so what we try to achieve is like not taking away the experience from them. So we try to behave like a waiter in a expensive restaurant who's like just observing the scene and making sure that everything is going well, and then coming with the right offer and so on in the appropriate point of time, which is not easy to do. So it's a balancing act between freedom, creativity, and motivation on the side of the students and groups, and then on the other hand, often enough too high expectations, also missing experience. And we try to catch experiments before they fail. We also let them fail sometimes, but so I put in here again the one part of the self-determination theory on the psychological needs. So motivation, which is the basis of learning, comes from fulfilling those 3 psychological needs: need for autonomy, competency, and relatedness. And by having these like groups and conceiving their experiment on their own and doing them together and so on. They have a lot of relatedness and autonomy feeling, but the competency is something that we have to take care that also what they do relates to what the level they are currently on, such that they can do real step-by-step development of their experience and knowledge. And so in the first round, we did it in this way. So we had 18 students that we could to whom we could offer this practicum, the special P+ type of lab. And we put them into groups of 6, and we had 3 very, very motivated TAs, and then Andreas as the lecturer. And this is how the different jobs were like split up. So the students, of course, develop the ideas, they plan the setup, they carry out the experiment, they write the report, and the TAs give guidance on the physics theory and the experimental skills. They also help with the group dynamics and steer there. And the lecturer has to guarantee the feasibility, has to give technical support, and has to also do quality control, because it turned out that the TAs in principle are very good at judging whether something is the right level or not, but because they are like really with the students the whole semester, they come in sometimes into role conflicts, especially when to balance. So when do I just let them run a bit, and when do I want to get them back online? So we found that it was very important to really have someone who's looking from the outside, whether, for example, something was enough, or whether an experimental plan with the milestones was well conceived. And so this was also in the hands of the lecturer. And then, because we had so much more applications, we wanted to scale this up, and it was clear already that the lecturer cannot do this in the current scheme. And so what we did then is that we added another layer of supervision. Here it looks a bit like so the head TAs are the new layer, but we took 2 of the 3 TAs from the last round as head TAs. So to me, it feels like the new layer are the student TAs down here. So we hired alumni from the first round, and now also a few more from the second round, to become the student teaching assistants who stay with the groups, and they give the guidance on theory and experiment, and they also give the guidance on the group dynamics, but the quality control and also input on the right level on theory and experiment is now given to the head TAs, who also carry out a lot of the supervising and observing during the experiment. And this is how we then scaled up the event. And here I collected feedback I got from the different levels within P+. So the students say that, so we observe, but also the students say that the student teaching assistants, they bring a gigantic motivation in. So we see this also in the development from year to year. Even though we had very motivated TAs in the first year, they are postdocs and PhD students, they are more away from the student level. And they, while they also had a lot of fun, the level how the student TAs own P+ and like think about the spirit and talk about the spirit and live this was not there with the PhD students and postdocs, who are obviously just in another stage of like their life and everything, and also in the development of becoming a physicist and also bringing this forward. And so by hiring alumni, of course, we also have from the beginning specific P+ knowledge that we can transport. This is also important for us. And the students report that the closeness of the student teaching assistants is very, very important, that they feel that they are approachable. They can come with questions, also with silly questions. And the head TAs tell us that the student TAs have a very good insights, like an instant knowledge on what the students will know and will not know. So they have a better idea on judging what do we have to like introduce and what can we expect from the students. We discovered that there can be role conflicts, as I shortly mentioned, and the second layer helps to avoid the role conflicts, because the head TA will have like the stern voice here and saying, no, this is not enough, you have to continue, or you have tried this now long enough, you have to start with a backup plan. And the student TAs are very much friends with the groups. We have also seen that the student TAs sometimes have, also because of their motivation, but also because of lacking experience, they can't detect if an experiment is too ambitious. And sometimes we also had the feeling that individual student TAs push their groups too far. So we see that the motivation, so they only have to do the experiment unto a certain stage and within a certain time frame, but we give them the freedom to continue. And maybe you have seen on the first slide, for example, the experiments where they built, so they used telescope and built a motor that follows the sky, or more the motion of the Earth, such that they can take long captures of some planets and do spectroscopy on Jupiter, for example. And for this experiment, they stayed or they went to the roof here of the building several nights. And of course, this has to be supported on free time by us as lecturers, by the students, by the student TAs, and so on. And this is like really, it's a treasure, this motivation, and that they want to do that. They know that they don't have to, they are not graded, but they want to do that. But that we also need to balance that and make sure that like not individuals within a group are pushed too far, and that also the groups are not pushed too far. But the feedback from the students is really amazing. So they say things like, it's the best what happened to us in our physics study, and things like that. So the motivation there is really, really important. And we try to do also, or we do reflections on the teaching, and a lot of the reflections are, however, what we learn on the group dynamic with student TAs. And I already had the pleasure, so Andreas and I already had the pleasure to talk to you guys about the possibility to do coaching trainings also for our student TAs, which is something that we will surely also include in future semesters. The student TAs, so that's maybe my final point, they report that they themselves learn and benefit immensely from leading the P+ group. So they say that they often, even content-wise, learn more in while leading the groups than when they themselves took the course, and they learn a lot about other skills like leadership and so on, and especially looking from the perspective of someone who is running an experimental physics lab, working together as a team and preparing and carrying out an experiment as a team is a extremely valuable skill for becoming an experimental physicist. And I think that the P+ prepares our students in a way that has not been present before here in the physics department. And then I want to finish with saying that also the current students want to become P+ students, so we P+ TAs. We haven't done, so at the moment we just get requests, but we have done previous surveys in the previous rounds. And this is, for example, what they say if they are just asked if in an anonymous survey, if they would like to become a TA, then really the majority say they would like that. And this is maybe just to show that they are really happy about P+, they would do it again. And also at least what they say is that the amount of time they invest is still within what, so the orange bar is where the ECTS points would lie, so at 180 hours. Okay, so with this, I would like to stop.